Arcade Heroes.
Hey everyone, this is Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, and welcome to the IAAPA 2015 pregame show. Just without any co-hosts, studios, fancy graphics, anything resembling a budget whatsoever. So I'm just going to talk about the upcoming IAAPA trade show event that's happening the week of November 16th, pretty much all week long, so that's a week from now when I'm recording this. And just going to talk about what it is, talk about what we know is going to be there, make some wild predictions. Who knows, maybe I'll be embarrassed or want to delete the video after that if I get anything wrong. But be doing a best of my knowledge sort of thing here. And no, I'm not associated with IAAPA, they're not paying for any of this. It's just one of the biggest trade shows of the year, so it's worth talking about. So IAAPA itself stands for the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. And as the name implies, that covers a very broad spectrum of out-of-home entertainment. So theme parks with roller coaster rides and midway games and arcades and anything else that you can think of for those sorts of things, all the way down to an arcade like this. If it's out-of-home entertainment or amusement related, then it tends to show up at this show. Since 2010, it's been held in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be held there again this year, and that's going to be the case through 2020. Orlando, of course, is the land of theme parks with Disney World and SeaWorld and Universal Studios and other interesting things to see there, and so that's why they decided to hold it there. And it does attract an international crowd. There's a few to several hundred companies there from all over the world. There are, of course, a lot of American companies, but the presence of Chinese companies has certainly grown in the past few years. And it's a lot more than arcades that you see there. Granted, it is a pretty significant event for new arcade developments, but if you were to attend the show, and it is something I would recommend that you go to if you are into this industry or looking to get into the business in any way, shape, or form. You'll see rope courses, inflatables, full motion simulators. Last year I saw virtual graffiti. You'll come across motion theater rides, animatronic, interactive animatronics. Trying to think of everything else that's there. It's quite a lot. It's not something you can do in one day and satisfactorily get the feel for everything that's there. So there's quite a bit to see. Now, what I'm going to cover for this video does not get into all that extra stuff. There's just too much that we can cover as a preview. I'll just be focusing on what they call the Coin-Op Pavilion, which is focused on companies that have developed generally arcade machines or other products that fit into a single contained product that can be played by putting coins into it. But I won't really touch kiddie rides and stuff like that, which you'll find there. And so overall, the shortest way to describe IAAPA, it's the E3 of the amusement or arcade industries. That should point across. But I'm going to go through the different companies and what they have, and I'll just go alphabetically down through the companies and we'll see what they've got. Okay, so for starters, let's go with Adrenaline Amusements. They're a Canadian company that got started, I think it was about 2007, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And they've been big on taking mobile games and porting them over to the amusement industry, to the arcade industry. And so they recently unveiled their Crossy Road arcade machine, which uses the same cabinet design as a game they unveiled last year called Flying Tickets, which was essentially Flappy Bird for 2 players. So Crossy Road Arcade, officially licensed, and it's Crossy Road for 2 players. I also believe they'll have their new Where's My Crown Scratch and Win touchscreen game. That's in the same type of cabinet that you might have seen Fruit Ninja FX in. They also will likely have their Candy Crush arcade games there, which they unveiled last year at IAAPA as well. So that's what I expect to see from them, although they could always have something else there, another licensed mobile game that they've brought over, as they've been big on that. After that will be Andamiro USA. They're a Korean-based company and best known for the Pump It Up series, which is an alternative to Dance Dance Revolution. So they should have Pump It Up Prime there this year, maybe Pump It Up Infinity. They unveiled Pump It Up Prime at last year's IAAPA trade show. Haven't heard anything yet about a new version of Pump It Up. Sometimes they do wait a year in between the new releases, and so that's probably where we find ourselves. They'll also be making a big push on their SpongeBob SquarePants video redemption game. I guess I should mention now, I usually call video redemption Videmption, so Crossy Road Arcade would be Videmption. The SpongeBob Prize Videmption game as well. Andamiro always has a big lineup of other redemption pieces, and usually something new to show along those lines. Not always something that's just pure video, however. After that is one that is always popular, Bandai Namco Amusements. Bandai Namco last year unveiled the Star Wars Battle Pod to the amusement industry at that event, and so they will certainly be there with a big booth, and among what they'll be showing off is the new Galaga Assault, which is a collaboration they've been doing with Raw Thrills, so that'll probably be one of the bigger ones. They'll have the Star Wars Battle Pod flat screen edition there, which is just a smaller version of this, something that looks more like a racing cabinet as opposed to a dome. And of course they'll have various other redemption games there. I believe they have a new Pac-Man redemption game in the works. As to their video, they should have Time Crisis 5 there. I am hoping that they'll have a standard version, which means just smaller screens, because the current version of this is two 55-inch screens, and it's a cool looking big game, but it's not perfect for every location out there, so it'd be nice if they have a slightly smaller, slightly cheaper version of that. Also, as far as guessing goes, since they haven't unveiled or made an official announcement yet of what they're taking, Point Blank X, it'd be nice to see that one there. I think there is a good chance that we could see that one. They also recently unveiled their new simulator dome screen game, Real Drive, which is a simulator for cars, at the Tokyo Motor Show. So there's a chance, a small chance, we can see that one. And then also it was unveiled this weekend that Winged Midnight Maximum Tune 5 has been testing in the United States, in Colorado and in California. And so while Namco pretty much didn't do anything with Maximum Tune 4 here in the States, they did have Maximum Tune 3 and 3DX Plus here. In fact, the first trade show I went to, they had a big quad set up for Maximum Tune 3. But yeah, there is a good chance we could see 5 there, just depends on what they want to do. As for Tekken 7 or Pokken Tournament, while those games have been tested in the United States, the problem is they're fighting games, and all these companies can never resist releasing it to the console, and the moment a fighting game comes out on console, its popularity dives to the bottom of the ocean. So I have my doubts that they would take either of those games there, because I just don't think they're going to be giving them a wide release. If they do, it's really just throwing a bone to operators like me, but most of us aren't really going to spend that money that they're going to be asking for on those games, unless they decided to release them for a very, very reasonable price point, so that it would make sense to get one now before the console versions are released. After that, we got Barron Games. They're a US-based company out of Buffalo, New York. They've generally focused on air hockey. In recent years, though, they have been getting into more motion simulated video games like LA Tank Attack. So they were big on promoting that last year. This year, they're going to be bringing one for kids. It's essentially a blend of a kiddie ride with a video game called Dolphin Show, by Taiwanese developer IGS, so a very colorful, cutesy game. They'll also have their line of air hockey tables there, most likely the Galaxy Collision, which is a 4-player square-shaped table. You might have seen that out there. And they will also be showing off their newest World Tour Foosball, which is the first time I've seen anything evolve on foosball into something more modern, with nice lighting and sound effects and all sorts of things that make it feel like it's modern. After that, we have Baytek Games. They're actually not in the coin-op pavilion, but they're just right outside of it. This company is very big on redemption pieces, but they have been dealing a lot with video redemption recently. They released Grand Piano Keys this year, which was a mobile app. They just put it into an enormous cabinet and made it 2 players, which from all reports has been earning very well. Dave & Buster's has also been testing out a piece of theirs which has been reportedly doing well, called Gridiron Blitz, which for those of you who might not be in the United States, it's essentially an American football training game, and so you run through tires and whatnot. It's been doing pretty well here from what I've been hearing. Last year they showed off a couple of surprises. They had one called Hop Star. They had a very early version of Grand Piano Keys, so they could have something else there. Hard to say. I'm sure they'll have their Flappy Bird merchandiser game as well, so it could be a surprise that we get at the Baytek booth. After them is Benchmark Games, also a big name in redemption. They have the Pop It Extreme games or Monster Drop, which are found at virtually every arcade out there. Very, very popular. And they, in the past couple of years, they have brought at least one redemption piece. Last year they had Mini Motor Racing Arcade, which was designed by an Italian company. And I've heard rumors that they're going to have another new redemption piece there. Don't know what it is yet. The year before that they had tested out a drag racing redemption game, but that was never released. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see if they have something there for us. Chicago Gaming Company, which is a very old U.S. company, obviously based out of Chicago. Last year their booth had a few Medieval Madness remake pinball machines there, and I believe they'll be around again with the same piece. I haven't heard of any new developments coming from them, as they've just been focusing on getting those. They also produced the Arcade Legends 3 home game. There's no commercial version of that one, and don't expect anything to change in that regard. After them is Coastal Amusements, another US-based company, also big on the redemption gaming circuit, but they've been really big on videmption as well. In recent years they've unveiled Temple Run 2, Rail Rush. Last year they did Subway Surfers and Yahtzee. They also had a Taiwanese developed game called Sharpshooter there, and the Sharpshooter one was just a video game. It was kind of a shooting gallery video game. And so they could always have a surprise for us. They always seem to introduce at least one new video piece, just has the ticket part attached to it, but I believe their games can be set to amusement only if an arcade didn't want to do the tickets. So we'll keep an eye on them. After that is ICE Games. They are become a very big name in redemption arcade gaming. So they have their variety of crane machines and basketball machines, and of course they're the creators of the Super Checks Dome Hockey game, which is kind of your variation of foosball. And they've been really big on redemption pieces, and they've been working with Play Mechanix, which is owned by Raw Thrills. They're just turning 20 the same week as IAAPA is taking place, and so last year Play Mechanix and ICE unveiled Kung Fu Panda Mojo, and this year we are expecting to see Pink Panther Jewel Heist, which is already available. We also expect to see Angry Birds Arcade, which Dave & Buster's had as an exclusive for a while there. And I believe it's this show that will be the official debut for the rest of the industry outside of Dave & Buster's. Also, there is a very good chance that we could see the new Ghostbusters redemption game there. That was designed by Play Mechanix, and from the videos it was shown that it also has the ICE logo on it. So there is a pretty good chance that we could be seeing some Ghostbusters action there, maybe in a different cabinet or whatever. It's going to be the final cabinet for it. Don't expect anything else other than things that are a bit older that they've already shown, like Harpoon. That would be enough new stuff for them to try and show off to the whole industry, and they might not take one of them just so they don't overwhelm their clients. Sometimes companies do that where they might have something in the works, but they decide to hold it over till the next trade show, which happens in January or March, depending on which one they want to go to. After that is Incredible Technologies, also based out of the Chicago area, very well known for Golden Tee. And they just released Golden Tee 2016, so we expect to see that there. They'll also probably have their Power Putt live game, their Silver Strike live game, which have been around for a few years already. Don't expect anything new there, because they generally are one company that tends to announce in advance. And also their new Redemption line. Last year they had Mix and Match, which was a very simplistic redemption game. They've been promoting Lunatics, which is another simplistic redemption game. So they've been pushing that, so I expect to see those there. Next up is InJoy Motion, a Taiwanese company that's been working hard to make some inroads in the United States in recent years. And they've announced that they are going to have a new air model of their Dido Kart 2 game. Dido Kart 2 is just their version of a kart racing game with cutesy kid characters. And their air hardware, it uses air bladders as opposed to a pneumatic or an electrical motor system to move the seat around. And so it's just more economical, doesn't cost as much. So we'll see that. We'll see LAI Tank Attack. Probably several other products, like Kitty Dido, which is a kid redemption game. And probably other games that fit into their lineup that they've been selling for years, like Street Racing Stars. They have a big booth, so I imagine that's what they're going to fill it up with. After InJoy Motion is Jersey Jack Pinball. They're expected to show off what is soon to be the final build of the Hobbit Pinball. Did get to play them last year and check them out and see what the Hobbit was like at that point, but they had already announced at the show it was going to have a different art face on the playfield, which they had sitting next to the game. It just wasn't installed into it yet. So we'll see that with the final artwork, any final changes made to the playfield with the toys, and of course a much more mature software code. It was a bit basic last time, so this one should be a lot nicer to see. And it's about time that this game's coming along. After them we have LAI Games. They are based, I believe they're headquartered out of the Philippines, but their US division is just known as LAI Games. And they also work with time zone locations, which are big outside of the US, more Southeast Asia as far as the locations go. And they're big on redemption games. They're always showing off something redemption-like. Last year they had Shooting Mania, which was new. They'll have their color match, of course. Not sure if there's anything brand new that they're bringing as far as video goes. Probably be a surprise, so we'll wait and see on that one. After LAI is a newcomer, European-based Magic Play. They just got a US division started up this year, and so I recently reported on Arcade Heroes that they will have a new game called Timberman, which is based on the mobile game. Just in a big screen, of course, and with actual physical controls as opposed to touch screen controls. And they'll probably have a few other things like their cranes and other ticket redemption games to show off. Then we have Raw Thrills. Of course, this is the big one. Raw Thrills has become what I would call the #1 arcade manufacturer in the industry, because between them and Play Mechanix, they've been producing so much content, not just for themselves, but for other companies like ICE and Bandai Namco, as we've already mentioned. So of course they'll have Galaga Assault, but I don't think that will be there at their booth. And that, actually their booth's not labeled as the Raw Thrills booth. It never is. It's always under the Betson booth. So if you're going to the show for the first time and trying to find the Raw Thrills booth, don't look for it under that name. Just look for it under Betson. Anyways, they'll have MotoGP there. This is Play Mechanix's first racing game. Generally they've been developing light gun games like Terminator Salvation, Aliens Armageddon, titles like that, and also the many redemption games that we've already mentioned for ICE, and a few other companies. They previously did Barrel Monkeys just through the Raw Thrills name as well. And so MotoGP will be the big one that's there. They'll have Jurassic Park Arcade with the motion version there. Again, Jurassic Park Arcade, of course, was unveiled last year as the new game there. They'll have Big Buck Wild, probably an Aliens Extermination, maybe a Winter X Games Snowcross. those products typically do show up there. They could cross over with having Ghostbusters or something like that there. And of course, there has been a Raw Thrills Redemption game on location test out there known as Qbert. We don't really know anything about it, but there is a small chance that maybe this is the event where we get to see what Qbert is. And I've also heard through the grapevine that Killer Queen, the independent game, which is installed in about 12 locations out there, is on test with Raw Thrills, and it's going to use a new cabinet design. I believe they're going to still have a 10-player version with a new cabinet, but also there's been talk from the Killer Queen developers for a while now that they're working on a 6-player version that's smaller and more economical. So it's possible that Raw Thrills has been working with them to build that. So good chance we could see that there. Of course, people will be asking about Cruisin'. I do doubt that will be there, just because MotoGP is going to be the main focus for getting new buyers on a new racing game. So my prediction is that Cruisin', if it is a Raw Thrills product, which it most likely is, will be at the Amusement Expo, which happens in Las Vegas this coming March. And Raw Thrills is definitely going to be a lot to see there. And then we have Sega Amusements. We got into an argument online recently about this. People still misunderstand the corporate structure of how Sega is. And they have their arcade division, which was recently rebranded as Sega Amusements International, which just created an umbrella of all of the amusement companies except for Sega Japan. But their focus is arcade and amusements, not the home developments for PC or mobile, just the arcade machines. And so last year, that's where they unveiled the new Showdown racing game, which is based on Dirt Showdown. And they had the very cool special attraction version there with 4 units, and they had a curved screen. Unfortunately, there was a lot of negative feedback on the curved screen. People didn't like how grainy it was. I thought it looked okay, or I liked the curved effect, but they decided to scrap that and went with a nice, huge HD screen instead. But this year they have announced that they will have a 2-player version of the special attraction version, which makes it easier for smaller locations with smaller budgets to get their hands on that. They will also have the new Sonic Dash Extreme, which is based on a mobile game with the same name. And several other redemption products like Plants vs. Zombies Redemption, and some mechanical redemption games like Sonic Blast Ball. They've said that they're going to have a couple of surprises there, implying that they were video. It's not going to be the Storm Racer Deluxe machine, which is a collaboration they've done with Wahlap, a Chinese company, and InJoy Motion. They will have that game there, as well as probably the standard Storm Racer that they've been selling, Storm Racer G, sorry. But they've left it up in the air as what these surprises are. For my wild predictions, hopefully I'm not embarrassed here, after the show is, I'm guessing it'll be Luigi Mansion Arcade by Capcom. There has been talk of Sega collaborating with that. That game has been tested in the US, and so I think there's a very good chance we can see that there, and it would be nice if it's the English translation, English version. And for the second one, this is a bit more of a wild guess, will be the Mario and Sonic at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games arcade. So that one was announced a few months ago in Japan, and given that the property is known out west, despite the cabinet being a bit odd, I mean, it could be the new track in the field for this industry. It could be interesting to see if they decide to bring that over. Don't worry, we're almost done here. As far as Sega goes, don't expect any announcements on brand new hardware powering anything. It's not something that the international division of Sega really does. That's always left up to Sega Japan, and let's be honest, they're just PCs in a box anyways, and that's why nobody really names their hardware much anymore. Maybe on occasion still, but it's not like it used to be with System 16 and all that stuff. But that's what I expect from Sega. Next up is Sturm Pinball, the biggest name in pinball, still cranking out lots of new games every year. Don't expect anything that's never been announced before. Stern doesn't do that with this trade show. But we will see the Game of Thrones pinball there, which models is always up to them, always a surprise. We'll likely also see Kiss Pinball, maybe one of their other recent ones like WrestleMania or The Walking Dead. But I'm pretty sure most of the focus is going to be on the Game of Thrones more than anything else. Team Play. This is a company which has been around for a while. They haven't built up a lot of products, I guess, throughout most of the 00s. But recently they had gotten back into the game a bit with a new photo booth and then, of course, what has become one of the biggest redemption pieces in the industry, Fishbowl Frenzy. Now, it's been more than a year since Fishbowl Frenzy was first announced, so could have something new there, maybe as a follow-up or a sequel or just a completely new redemption concept. So I'll stop by and we'll definitely take a look. Unite Technologies, creators of the Neon FM rhythm game, will be at IAAPA. The size of their booth looks like it has been the same size as other years, and so don't imagine we'll see anything completely out of the blue there. Could have the new Neon FM Asian version, which is a collaboration they did with Andamiro. I guess, come to think of it, one of those might be at the Andamiro booth as well. But as far as I can guess, that's probably what they will be promoting there. Now, of course, they did mention on their website an exercise game, arcade game sort of thing. I guess this would be a good place to unveil that if it's ready or if it's still in development. But that's one of those things we'll have to wait and see on. And then Universal Space, or also known as UNIS. They have a pretty big booth this year. I think they've taken up 2 gigantic block spaces to show off a lot of their kiddie rides, a lot of their redemption pieces. They'll be showing off games that they've released in previous years, Pirates Hook, Safari Ranger, and various others, and their big lineup of redemption games. Their main piece this year, however, will be what's called Bandit Express, which is a new concept in kiddie rides, essentially. It's like a train ride that's on a track, but it combines light gun arcade ideas onto it. So as you're going around on the track, you shoot at targets on video screens, you shoot at mechanical targets, so it's like a blending of all these concepts together. And so they're gunning for that to get an award at the show as best innovative product or one of those there. Last year they had Armed Resistance, which for me was the surprise of the show. It was just a pure video game. It was like a team-based sort of combat game. Very fun, but unfortunately I guess it didn't test very well, or UNIS hasn't been huge on video-only things here in the United States, and so they haven't announced anything along those lines, being pure video, that's going to be there. I'll definitely keep my eye open for that, but always hard to guess what they might bring along. And for our very last manufacturer that I'll cover in this video is Wahlap. They're a Chinese-based company, just like UNIS, and just like UNIS, they've been making some strides into the United States, set up an office here. Not really sure what to expect from them. I can just kind of assume it'll be a repeat of last year's booth where they had Monster Eye 5D, Overtake, Power Truck S. They had a coin pusher redemption game there as well. They haven't announced anything really new this year, so I mean, there's obviously a surprise they could bring along. Oh, of course they'll have Storm Racer G Deluxe, which is the motion-based version. But yeah, that could be one of those surprises. And that actually is the case with a lot of the Chinese companies. There's several others that I didn't mention here. Nido Fun, Sealy Game, not anything to do with the mattress company. Golden Dragon Amusements, and a few others. And it's always hard to know what they're going to bring to these sorts of events. It's usually a surprise. Oftentimes they'll have crane machines and kiddie rides, but they often do have some video games, and once, I don't remember which one it was, which company was, but they brought a Half-Life 2 Survivor arcade machine over to sell. So sometimes stuff like that happens, and that's fun. Beyond that, for the arcade side of things, as I mentioned, there'll be motion theater companies like Triotech, with their XD Dark Ride or XD Theater setups. They're always there. Simuline is there. Last year they unveiled their Valkyrie 4D shooting ride game with the zombie game on it, and hopefully they'll show off some more software for that, since you can't really have just one game with those sorts of setups. And then, of course, as mentioned, motion simulator companies like Cruden, who generally make something like a racing machine that tries to simulate it in a realistic manner. I believe Cruden last year had a powerboat simulator, although I could be mixing that up with another company. Or Max Flight, they're a simulator company that is all about simulating flight. I do expect to see a lot of VR stuff there this year. There was some last year with everybody just using Oculus Rift as a solution, but everybody promises they're going to use their own HMDs as opposed to Oculus, since Oculus had been a little short-sighted and put the ban hammer on any commercial use for that. I've heard they might be softening that stance. But it should be interesting to see who would be there with VR, and if what they're offering doesn't induce vomiting, which is one thing I almost experienced last year. Motion seats and VR, for me, don't mix very well. So yeah, that's it, and I'm sure we'll see a few other cool things, so stay tuned to my YouTube channel. If you're watching this far into this half-hour-long video, then I imagine you'll be checking out all the other things that I'll be posting. But the next couple of weeks, I'll be posting quite a few videos, so you'll be able to see all these games that I've talked about and any other surprises that we have. So thanks for watching, and keep on playing those arcade games. We'll see ya.